Hi guys, so today I'll be bringing you a deck profile for my vampire deck, Pure Build. This is my first actual YouTube video, so kind of let me know what you think about it. Subscribe to my channel. So starting off with the vampire deck, we'll be starting with three Gozukis. Now this allows you to send one vampire from the one uh, vampire level 4 zombie type monster from the deck. Also, once this card is sent from the field, from your hand, or from the deck, you could special summon one zombie monster from your hand. So it's pretty good for different outs with hands that you may brick with, which in the deck hardly bricks. So you'll be using three Gozukis, right? You'll be using three Vampire Familiar. This is like so awesome. Once this card is special summon from the deck, you could add one vampire monster from your deck to your hand. More than likely you'll go for Shadow, or if not Shadow, you'll go for Frailing, depending on your hand and your board that you'll possibly build. So more than likely you want to start off with those two by searching those two. After Familiar, you'll be running three Vampire Retainer. This searches the spell and traps from the deck. Um, Deck's pretty simple, guys. It floods the field pretty fast, pretty awesome. Next, we'll be running two Familiars. Now, this gives you your normal summon, your extra normal summon without tributes, so you could pop off those cool vampire effects. And this I also run this deck because we're running two vampire vamps. We're running two vampire vamps. So this pretty much gives vampire vamp the advantage that she needs when a vampire monster is normal summon, or when she's normal summon. You could take control of one of your opponent's face up monster. She gains the attack. Also, if she dies, she could special summon herself back from the graveyard once she was equipped with a monster. So she's a pretty big beat stick. Again, she's pretty easy to bring out. I'll show you the tech that I use to bring her out. So you're running two vampire vamps. Alright. Next you'll be running two Scarlet Scourge. Now this guy is pretty awesome too. You don't really need Monster Bond or Call of the Haunted or any of that sort, because you'll be running Vampire Vamp Scourge, Scarlet Scourge, that brings back your monsters from the graveyard. Also along with Vampire Dupe. He special summons them back from the graveyard. So one of the combos would be, if you have Scarlet Scourge in the graveyard, Retainer, Familiar, or even Vampire Vamp, you could normal summon, remove Sorcerer from play. Then you'll normal summon Vampire Dupe. Vampire Duke will then target Vampire Scourge in the graveyard, special summon Vampire Scourge, chain Vampire Scourge's effect, and you could special summon Vampire Familiar. You could choose Vampire Retainer, or you could special summon a Vampire Vamp, or any other vampire monsters that's in the graveyard. So that is just one of the fields that you could possibly build once you fill your graveyard and you have those. Now remember, if Vampire Familiar and Retainer is in the graveyard, you could discard one vampire card and special summon them back. You're also running one Vampire Red Baron, one Vampire Shadow, and one Vampire Crimson, along with the Bay of the deck, one Vampire Frailing. So those are your one-offs, those four cards. And the one dragon dark monster that we're running in the deck is this bad boy, Darkest Diablos, Lord of the Lair. He actually allows us to rip one card from your opponent's hand, and anytime you tribute summon, you could special summon him from your hand or from your graveyard. Once he is special summoned, he can't be targeted. Let me see. Yeah, it says your opponent cannot tribute this face-up card in the field, so you basically cannot be kaiju'd and cannot target it with effects. You can only use one of each Darkness Diablos Lord of the Lair once per turn. If a dark monster you control is tributed during except during damage step, you can special summon this card from your graveyard. If this card was I'm sorry, if it was tribute if it was there when tributed, or in your hand even if not. So even if it's not in your hand, you could search for this card, and once a monster is tributed, his effect will trigger, and he'll special summon himself from your hand, even if you search him. All right. So those are the monsters, guys. We're running 23 monsters. All right. And for the spell and trap, we're running for the traps. We're running one Shinryu style Samsara. This actually helps with us with the draw and for us to not take battle damage. Once remember, familiar and retainer are both 0 defense, so once both of those get removed from play, you could shuffle those back into the deck, draw one card, and this is once per turn, but during either player's turn. So you could do it in your turn or in your opponent's turn, shuffle back or remove from play zombie type monsters with 0 defense and draw a card. Then you could banish one zombie type monster from face up from the field to take 0 damage for that turn. So I've want to put a lot of duels with this card just by stalling and replenishing the deck. You're running one Vampire Takeover. This lets you activate Vampire Kingdom directly from the deck and special summon a dark vampire type monster from your graveyard to the field. So again, you could go for Vampire Scarlet Scourge and start another chain combo off of Vampire Takeover alone. Pretty good. We also have Crackdown. We're running that at 1 just to interrupt and take control of one of your opponent's monster. We're running 2 Awakening because we want to pop off the effect with Scarlet Scourge or with Vampire Retainer or Familiar in your opponent's turn. So that's another form of interruption, whereby you'll be getting pluses in your opponent's turn, tinning the deck. We're running 2 Vampire Domination. Now we know what that do. That just basically negates anything once you control a vampire. So that's a free negate. Plus, if you negate a monster and destroys it, you gain life points. Alright, that's it for the trap lineup. For the spell lineup, we're running 1 Monster Reborn. We're running 1 for 1 Foolish Burial, and 1 Vampire Kingdom. Vampire Kingdom also helps you to mill tin your deck. Once you're Again, you could special summon back Vampire Duke. Vampire Duke will then call Spell Trapper monster. Your opponent will then send 1 Spell Trapper monster from their deck. This effect will trigger, whereby you'll send 1 Dark Vampire monster from your deck to the graveyard to destroy 1 face-up card on the field. So that's another form of interruption that you could use on your opponent. So those are the 3 1-offs for spells. For 2-offs, we're using 2 Instant Fusion, which I'll show you the monsters that we use for Instant Fusion. It's pretty crazy. We're also using 2 Vampire Desires. Pretty crazy. It's another form of Foolish Burial or Monster Reborn for the deck, for vampires basically. And finally, we're running 3 Vampire Domain. Now this card is absolutely crazy. It lets you gain another normal summon for vampire type monsters. So again, the deck is pretty standard, guys. You want to abuse the normal summon of the vampire monsters, especially with Vampire Vamp and along with Vampire Shadow and Vampire Scourge. Right? Alright, so that's pretty much it, guys. This is the 40 deck vampire pure build. Alright. It works pretty fine. I haven't took it to a tournament yet, but we have duels with my friends and stuff, and it holds its own against Solomon Great, Sky Striker, what other else deck they have that's pretty pesky. Those are basically the two that I hate running against, but it practically holds its own against Solomon Great, Sky Strikers, and also the the True Draco. Yeah, I hate that deck. Big up to my boy Bijan. He's an absolute beast with True Draco deck. Alright, so for the extra deck lineup, I have one Nightmare Phoenix to get rid of back cards. We have one Barrowload Dragon to beat over your monsters or your opponent monsters and take control of their cards. I also run one Sayudra Skull Dread to get that additional plus in your hand and additional special summons. Alright, so for vampires, we run two Vampire Suckers. As again, those are Bay. Love those. Alright. We run one Link Karibu for our Vampire Familiar. We run one Wee Witch, whereby we could recycle our vampire monsters in the graveyard, add them back to our hand once that's destroyed. We run two Vampire Sheridan. Alright. One Photon Strike Bowser. That way we can negate monster effects and also deal 1,000 damage to your opponent. We run one Vampire Bram, just because he's absolutely crazy and broken. We run one Invoked Rajin. Now, this actually is a pretty great card also. He's for the instant fusion that I was telling you guys about. He could flip a monster face down. Apart from flipping a monster face down, if we open it instant fusion hand and a tribute summon monster, we could activate him if we're going second. Activate instant fusion, then activate activate his effect, flip a monster face down, tribute summon him for a Vampire Shadow. Vampire Shadow will then special summon a retainer or familiar from the deck, activating familiar or retainer's effect to add a spell or trap card or a monster. From there, we could link out into Vampire Sucker. Again, once we have vampire monsters in our graveyard, we could discard one vampire card, special summon a retainer or familiar from the graveyard. Vampire Sucker's effect kicks off, whereby it will add a you'll chain if it's retainer, activate with Vampire Sucker, chain retainer. Retainer will then add one card from her deck to her hand or familiar, and then we'll chain Vampire Sucker effect will trigger, which will then have us draw one card. So that is a +2 already. And then from there we could just go into different combos based on what we actually, if what board we're setting up, right? But crazy. Book of Moon, they should bring that back to 3. We're running one C Tialos. I don't use tuner synchros in this deck, just for the mere fact that I want to keep it strictly vampires, and we have again, it's another level 5, so we could go directly into Bram, right? We also have, for finishing, one Extinction Knight, just in case we want to break boards. But yeah, pretty much this is the vampire deck profile that I promised you guys do for you. This is my actual first YouTube Yu-Gi-Oh video. Kind of let me know what you think, guys, and subscribe to my channel. Peace.